You're listening to Overhead Story Channel. Enjoy.
Sunday mornings had always been mine. Mine to sit quietly in my corner of the couch with a mug of dark roast, mine to flip through the paper or lose myself in a podcast, mine to believe maybe just for a few hours that everything in life was steady, predictable, safe. Kelsey usually slept in on Sundays. She'd wake up late, pad into the kitchen in her robe, hair wild from sleep, eyes soft with that slow smile she used to save only for me. She hadn't smiled like that in a while, though. Not really. And that morning, as I walked down the stairs and glanced toward the living room, I saw something that made the air change. A shirt. A man's shirt. Draped lazily over the back of our reading chair like it had been casually tossed there after a long night. I stopped. My foot hovered mid-step on the bottom stair. It wasn't mine. The fabric was a light blue, button-down Oxford. Subtle stripe. Maybe J. Crew? Not a brand I wore. Too big in the shoulders, too long in the sleeves. It looked worn in, like someone had actually lived in it and not just for a quick nap on a couch. And when I took a few steps closer, it hit me, cologne. Something heavy, clean, and sharp. Definitely not my scent. Kelsey always used to tease me for wearing citrus-based sprays, said they made me smell like a fancy candle. This wasn't that. Next to the chair, on the side table, sat 2 wine glasses. One still had a pinkish tint around the rim, her lipstick. A faint smudge right where she always sipped. The other was almost full, untouched. Clean, but not clean, like it had been held, warmed slightly from someone's hand, but never brought to their lips. It was early, maybe just after 8 a.m., and the house was quiet in that still, deceptive way. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring at the setup like it was some kind of crime scene. Like if I just stared long enough, the pieces would reassemble themselves into something less suspicious. Less wrong. I didn't hear her until the bathroom door clicked open upstairs. Then came the sound of her footsteps, bare, light, practiced, followed by the soft swish of a towel being tightened around her head. She came down in her robe, the navy silk one I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. She'd made a habit of wearing it again lately. Not for me. For herself. Her face was fresh, no makeup. No expression either, at least not one I could read. She saw me in the living room, her eyes flicking to the shirt like she'd forgotten it was there. "Oh," she said, breezy and offhand. "That's my cousin's. Logan. He stayed over after his layover got canceled. His flight got pushed, like, 4 times. Poor guy didn't want to sleep at the airport." I nodded slowly. "Right?" She started walking toward the kitchen, completely unbothered. He had meetings up north and figured it'd be easier to stay with us than book a hotel last minute. I told him it was no problem. She didn't wait for me to respond. The way she said it was too smooth. No pauses. No details needing clarification. And yet the entire explanation felt like a performance. Rehearsed. Scripted in the mirror the night before, or maybe on the phone to someone else, someone who helped her decide what sounded believable. I didn't argue. I just stood there and nodded like some statue frozen under the weight of a new, invisible truth. Because that's what it was, a shift. Something inside me moved, cracked, even though the world around me looked the same. I kept staring at the shirt. She was always good at keeping things composed. Even during arguments, especially during arguments, she kept her voice level, her tone even. I used to think it was emotional maturity. Now I wonder if it was just practice. The way liars learn to keep their breath steady under pressure. I made myself coffee like I always did. Measured the grounds, filled the kettle, listened to it boil. It was mechanical. Like muscle memory. All the while, my eyes kept drifting to that chair, to that shirt, to the way it sat there like it had rights. Like it had been there long enough to relax. She moved around the kitchen with practiced grace. Opened the fridge. Pulled out oat milk. Asked me if I wanted anything from the store later. Her voice was light, like we were still living in the version of our life that hadn't begged *N to unravel. I watched her with a quiet I didn't recognize in myself. "You said Logan stayed over?" I asked, my voice as casual as I could make it. She glanced up for half a second. "Yeah. He got in super late. You were already asleep. I didn't want to wake you. Right? He left early this morning. Had a rental scheduled. I think he was headed to San Jose or something." "Right," I said again because it was the only word I could trust myself with. I tried to remember the last time she mentioned this cousin. Logan. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but we had dozens of cousins between us. Most of whom I hadn't seen in years, if ever. Was he the one who sent a wedding gift but didn't come? Or was that the other one, the one with the kid in LA? None of it added up. She was scrolling through her phone now, sipping her coffee like this was any other Sunday. No mention of the wine. No mention of why there were 2 glasses. No signs of a guest ever having been here, no suitcase, no shoes by the door, no Uber receipt in the inbox I'd be tempted to check later. Just a shirt, sitting there like a ghost. After she left the room, I found myself walking back over to it. I didn't touch it. Didn't need to. I just stared at it, studied it. The seams, the scent, the faint wrinkle near the hem where someone had sat or leaned. It was too an asterisk, mate. Too careless to be from a relative who passed through overnight. This wasn't a guest's shirt. It was someone comfortable. Someone expected. Or worse, someone repeated. I sat on the couch, barely tasting the coffee. The clock ticked. Somewhere upstairs, she turned on the shower. Or maybe she'd already showered and was just pretending to get ready for the day. I couldn't tell anymore. It wasn't about the shirt. Not really. It was about what it meant. About how easily it had been dismissed. About how quickly she moved past it like it didn't deserve a second glance. And maybe that's what stung the most, not the presence of the shirt, but the absence of guilt in her eyes. Looking back now, I can map the whole thing out like a chart. It didn't happen all at once. Cheating never does, right? It unravels slowly like a sweater snagged on a nail. A thread here, a loosened knot there. Before you know it, what used to be solid starts to fall apart right in your hands. It probably started over a year ago. That's when Kelsey first began to drift, not in a dramatic way. No sudden fights. No slammed doors. Just distance. A quiet one. At first, I thought it was just stress. She had taken on more responsibility at work. She started talking about leadership goals, workshops, more Zoom calls with her mentor, some woman in Chicago whose name I never really learned. I was proud of her, honestly. She was climbing, building, chasing something. I figured I just needed to give her space. Let her evolve without crowding her. That's what partners do, right? But it didn't stop there. Soon, our physical connection started slipping. Kelsey would say she was tired, or not in the mood, or that her hormones were out of whack. I just feel off lately, she'd say, curling up on her side of the bed, her back turned toward me. It's not you. It's me. I'm just exhausted. I didn't push her. I thought I was being respectful, supportive. But night after night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the space between us grow. Weeks passed. Then months. The few times we did connect felt robotic. Like she was ticking a box. Like she needed to prove she still could, not that she wanted to. Then came the guarded phone. Kelsey used to leave her phone lying around all the time. On the couch cushions, on the bathroom sink, on the kitchen island. Now it was always with her. Always face down. She'd flip it over the moment I entered the room, the screen lighting up for just a second too long before she tucked it away. I remember the first time I really noticed it. We were watching a movie, some forgettable rom-com she had picked out. Her phone buzzed once, then again. I glanced at it. No names, just numbers. She snatched it up without looking at me, typed something quickly, then set it back down. Face down. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah. Just work, she said. At 10:30 on a Saturday? She didn't even look up. My team's global now. I get messages at weird times. Right? A week later, she started taking more retreats. That's what she called them. Self-care weekends. A few times a year turned into every other month. Always at some quiet Airbnb or wellness hotel, always alone. At least, that's what she said. She'd leave on Friday afternoon and be back Sunday evening. Smiling, refreshed, glowing. I wanted to believe her. I really did. She brought back trinkets. Essential oils, books, handmade soap. One time she brought me back a journal. Said I should start reflecting more. I thanked her. I even used it once. I wrote, I miss my wife. Then I closed it and put it in a drawer. She stopped reaching for my hand. We stopped cooking dinner together. I'd come home from work and she'd already eaten. I'd suggest going out and she'd say she had a Zoom group she couldn't miss. I asked if I could join once, just to see what it was like. She laughed. It's all women. Trust me, you wouldn't enjoy it. At some point, I stopped asking. But the real shift, that came the night I caught her taking a selfie at midnight. I gotten up to grab water. She didn't hear me walk by the hallway. Her door was cracked. She was in the guest room, where she'd been sleeping lately, claiming she needed a firmer mattress. I saw her in the mirror, phone in front of her face, hair tousled like she'd been trying different angles for a while. She was smiling, not her usual photo smile, the one she gave to family or coworkers. This one was different, soft, flirty. I didn't say anything. I just backed away, went back to bed, and stared at the ceiling again. She'd never sent selfies to me. Kelsey was smart, calculated. If she was cheating, she wasn't going to leave a trail I could easily follow. She was careful with her browsing history, her texts, her receipts. She even changed her car's oil and filled the tank more often than usual. Like she didn't want me to notice any unexplained mileage. But people leave fingerprints even when they think they're being clever. One night, she came home late and forgot to lock her phone. It lit up on the counter with a preview from someone named Jay. Can't stop thinking about the other night. My stomach dropped. My hands froze. Before I could even react, she walked in, saw the screen still lit, and casually slid the phone into her pocket. "You want tea?" she asked, already moving toward the kettle. "Who's Jay?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She paused. Not long. Not even a full second. But enough. "Oh, just someone from the wellness group. We've been texting about upcoming retreats." Right? She didn't offer to show me the conversation. She didn't elaborate. She didn't mention Jay again. She started going to sleep with earbuds in. Said they helped her with white noise. I asked her once what she listened to. She said it was an app, nothing exciting. She laughed. I downloaded the app. It didn't have white noise. By then, I had stopped bringing things up. I wasn't afraid of the truth. I just didn't want to hear another lie. I was tired of being told I was imagining things, tired of feeling like the paranoid husband when I was just trying to make sense of the person I used to know. Our anniversary came and went without fanfare. I got her flowers. She got me a book on meditation. We went to dinner, the conversation was stiff. We didn't even toast. And through it all, I kept telling myself this was just a rough patch, that every couple goes through this, that maybe I wasn't being patient enough, that if I just held on, she'd find her way back. But she didn't. And deep down, I think I knew she wasn't trying to. What finally broke me wasn't even something big. It was one morning, maybe 2 weeks before I saw the shirt. She came into the kitchen already dressed. She looked nice, heels, full makeup, perfume. It wasn't a work day. I asked where she was going. "Brunch," she said. "Girls' thing." She kissed me on the cheek and grabbed her purse. I noticed her nails were freshly done. I noticed her earrings, the gold hoops she used to save for date nights. I noticed she was humming. She hadn't hummed in months. "Who's all going?" I asked. She paused in the doorway. "Oh, just a few of us. Don't worry about it." Then she was gone, and I just stood there in the kitchen, watching the door like it had taken something with it. It wasn't a single red flag. It was a slow bleed, a year of vanishing attention, of little silences where connection used to be, of guarded phones and new routines and too many words that meant too little. By the time the shirt showed up, I wasn't shocked. Hurt, yes, but not shocked, because when someone's pulling away from you, really pulling away, it's not sudden. There's 100 missed glances, 1,000 closed doors, 1,001 chances for them to say, "I'm slipping," and for you to realize you already knew. I didn't go looking for proof. Not at first. Even after the shirt, the wine glasses, the lipstick, even after her explanation that landed too neatly, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. That maybe I was just overanalyzing. That people forget things, that coincidences happen, that sometimes logic stutters before it finds the truth. But my gut, it wouldn't shut up. And that week, a situation came up with our home security system. The app we used, it had been glitchy. Random errors, missed push notifications. It wasn't even about her at first. I just wanted to reset the settings, reconfigure the motion zones, and check the logs. That's all. We'd installed cameras around the house the year before, doorbell cam, driveway, backyard, and one above the rear sliding door that faced the patio. That one had been mostly for show, honestly. We barely used the backyard anymore. But it backed into an alley, the kind where people occasionally cut through. We figured it wouldn't hurt. I was scrolling through the archive from the outdoor cams when I saw a clip from the week before. One that hadn't been auto-flagged. It was early morning, around 6:12 a.m. On a Thursday. Kelsey had told me she was doing sunrise yoga that day. She left the house around 6:30, but the footage said otherwise. I clicked it. It loaded. There she was, standing at the back door in her robe. Hair messy. No yoga mat. No car keys. and beside her a man, tall, athletic build, dressed in dark jeans and a gray hoodie. He looked around once, then stepped inside like he'd done it before, like it wasn't new. They stood in the doorway for a moment. Kelsey touched his chest, leaned up, and kissed him. Slow, familiar. Like this wasn't the first time. Like this was their routine. He reached for her waist. She pulled him inside. The footage ended there. The timestamp blinked. 6:12 a.m. I stared at the screen. Replayed it. Paused. Zoomed. Replayed again. There wasn't audio, just a haunting kind of silence. The kind you don't notice until it wraps around your ribs and squeezes. The kind that follows bad news or funerals or moments like this, when the version of your life that you thought was true collapses inward on itself. I sat back in my chair, hands numb on the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just knew. I had the truth now in 720p, 2 angles, 3 seconds too long to misinterpret. There was no room for cousin with a layover. No wiggle space. No reframe. This wasn't a flirtation. This was someone she was comfortable sneaking in. The sunrise. In her robe. On a weekday. I stared at the screen for a long time, until the playback ended again and looped me back to the beginning. Then I closed the laptop. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next one. There was nothing left to ask. I didn't want to hear her voice. Didn't want to hear the lies compackaged in familiar softness. Didn't want to listen to her we *p*nice guilt, or call it a mistake, or say something like, it wasn't serious, as if betrayal came with a rating scale. So instead, I made a copy of the video, backed it up to the cloud, a thumb drive, and a password-protected folder. Then I sat on the edge of the bed while she got ready for work. She was applying makeup. Not a full face, just light concealer, mascara, something nude on her lips. Her reflection looked like someone I used to know. Someone I used to wake up beside and wonder how I got lucky enough to share a life with. She caught my eyes in the mirror. You okay? I nodded. Just tired. She smiled, but it didn't reach anything real. Same. We should do a trip soon. Like just us. Get out of town. Yeah, I said. That'd be nice. She turned back to her mascara. I turned back to the footage in my mind. That night, while she showered, I stared at the bathroom door and listened to the water running. And I kept seeing her in that camera footage. Barefoot, smiling, reaching out to him like she had the right. She never smiled like that when she left for yoga. I spent the next few days watching our life unfold from the outside. Watching her cook dinner and kiss my cheek. Watching her curl up with a book she wasn't really reading. Watching her take calls on mute from the patio. Pacing slow, speaking low, always watching the clock. I watched her and I waited. She had no idea. She still called me love. Still said goodnight with the same rhythm she always had. But everything had changed. Because now I had the footage. Not just of him walking in, but of my own blindness playing in slow motion. Every doubt I'd swallowed. Every excuse I'd accepted. Every red flag I'd chalked up to exhaustion or mood swings or hormones. Now I could see it all for what it was. Not stress. Not distance. Not a phase. But betrayal. Full-bodied. Documented. Undeniable. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not friends. Not family. I needed time not to grieve but to plan. Because the truth wasn't heavy anymore. It was solid. And for the first time in months I felt grounded. Kelsey had made her choice. Quietly. Repeatedly. Now it was my turn. People expect the betrayed to explode. To flip a table. Scream in the driveway. Set fire to someone's favorite hoodie. But that was never going to be me. I didn't have it in me to throw a tantrum. I didn't want the scene. I didn't want revenge porn or public shame or loud declarations of heartbreak. I wanted peace. And peace takes planning. I didn't say a word to Kelsey after I saw the footage. I kissed her goodbye when she left for work. I responded when she texted. I kept dinner warm. But in the background, I was moving every piece of our life into position. The trust paperwork had already been drawn up years ago, when I bought the house with inheritance money from my dad. I just never pulled the trigger because, well, I thought we were forever. But now, Now it became the blueprint for my escape. On Monday, I contacted my attorney. Quietly, privately, told her I was ready to activate everything we drafted. Transfer the house into my name, set up the revocable trust. We combed through bank accounts and separated assets I had once foolishly labeled ours. I froze the joint checking account. Left her enough in the personal to cover a gas tank or two, but nothing more. On Tuesday, I made new security codes for the house. Not just the keypad, but the app, the backups, the system administrator logins. Changed the passwords to the Wi-Fi, the garage door, the doorbell cam. She wouldn't even notice until it mattered. On Wednesday, I listed the house, not publicly, not yet. Just a soft launch through a private agent. I didn't want to sell it outright. I wanted to rent it, get it off her radar, turn it into something new. The agent came by that afternoon. She asked if my wife would be present. I said no. She didn't ask why. I took down every photo that included Kelsey. The wedding picture on the staircase. The goofy Polaroid from our honeymoon. The canvas she insisted on hanging in the hallway of us dancing in the rain. Gone. All boxed up, sealed, labeled, and stacked neatly by the door. That night, Kelsey came home late. Claimed she'd stayed after work for strategy sync. Her eyes sparkled. Her cheeks were flushed. And she smelled like perfume she hadn't worn in years. I said nothing. Just nodded, kissed her forehead, and asked if she was hungry. She said she already ate. Of course she did. On Thursday, I packed the master closet. Everything of hers. Folded, hung, pressed. Her yoga mat, her books, her dumb little meditation cushion that she kept next to the window. I even packed her favorite mug, the chipped white one that said, "Let that *T go." I smiled at that one. Her stuff didn't go in garbage bags. I wasn't petty. I used storage bins. Sturdy ones. Color-coded labels. Her name written in black Sharpie. Neat. Clean. No drama. By evening, the bins were lined up by the door like luggage waiting for a cab. I left one box open, on top, a printed rental agreement, signed by the new tenants set to move in 2 weeks from now. Beneath it, a letter. Nothing angry. No shouting through text. Just a simple explanation. Kelsey, I know. The footage made it clear. No need to lie or defend or soften what's already true. By the time you read this, your access to the house will be revoked. The locks are changed. The keypads are reset. I've transferred all assets under my name, the ones I protected long ago, just in case. Your belongings are untouched. Everything is packed and accounted for. Please arrange pickup by Friday. There's no need to contact me. This is not retaliation. This is resolution. I won't ask you why. That's not my job anymore. Kyle. I reread it 3 times. Not out of hesitation, I just wanted to be sure it said everything without saying too much. Later that night, I sat in the empty living room. The walls looked strange without our memories on them. Not better, not worse, just honest. The kind of honest the last year hadn't been. Kelsey texted around 11 p.m. Hey, you still up? Traffic was brutal, but I'm almost home. I didn't answer. I turned my phone off and dropped it into a drawer. And for the first time in what felt like months, I slept. Not a restless nap, not a half-conscious doze. Real, full-body, dreamless sleep. In the morning, she didn't come home. I wasn't surprised. Maybe she stayed with him. Maybe she saw the text I didn't send and felt the change in the air. Maybe she knew. Maybe people like her always know when the lie's leash finally snaps. I waited until noon, then left the boxes by the edge of the driveway. Not dumped. Not thrown. Just delivered. Final. Complete. I attached the letter to the top box with a binder clip. The house was mine now. Not just on paper, but in spirit. And the silence that used to feel like a warning now felt like something else. A start. The house was still. Cleaner than usual. Empty, but not in the tragic way people always imagine. It was a relief, honestly, not having to hold my breath every time the front door opened, not wondering what kind of version of Kelsey would walk in, the one who was distracted and tired, or the one who faked warmth so well she nearly convinced me to doubt my instincts. The bins were gone by the time I got back from a walk that Friday afternoon. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up in person to plead. Just took the boxes and vanished. I stood in the foyer for a long time, staring at the empty floor where her yoga mat used to be, the worn spot in the entry rug where her heels always landed first. Nothing dramatic, just absence. A clean erasure. It was around 7 when the knock came at the door. Not urgent, not hesitant. Just present. Like the person on the other side wasn't sure if they should be there, but also wasn't willing to leave until I answered. When I opened it, Alexis was standing there, Kelsey's cousin. She wore jeans and a charcoal gray sweater, no makeup, hair tied back. In her hand, a bottle of wine, a red blend with a label I didn't recognize. "I should have texted," she said, already looking uncertain. "I just didn't know if you'd even read it." I stepped aside without saying anything. She walked in slowly, like the air inside the house might collapse if she moved too fast. She set the wine on the counter and turned to me. "I heard," she said. "Or," I assumed, "Kelsey won't talk to anyone." I leaned against the fridge, arms crossed, still not sure what this was. Alexis and I had never been close. We'd spoken at barbecues, exchanged memes once when we were both stuck at the same baby shower. But that was about it. She always seemed more grounded than the rest of Kelsey's family. Quieter, sharper. She noticed things. "I wasn't sure if I should come," she added. But I saw what she did. Not the footage, but all the buildup. She doesn't know how to hide things as well as she thinks. That got my attention. "You knew." "Not for sure. But she told me enough to connect the dots." At first it was little comments. How complicated things had gotten. How she wasn't sure if she felt seen anymore. I asked her what she meant. She brushed it off. Said she was figuring things out. Alexis exhaled, looking down at the floor. I didn't push. I should have. I didn't know what to say to that. I'd spent the past week expecting rage. Or apology. Or at least something loud. But instead, I got her, calm, clear, showing up with wine and an apology that wasn't even hers. "You want a glass?" I asked, nodding toward the bottle. She half smiled. "Sure." We moved to the kitchen, opened the bottle, poured 2 glasses. The lights were dim, just the under-cabinet LEDs glowing against the backsplash. The silence in the house wasn't uncomfortable. It felt earned. She leaned against the island, glass in hand, eyes fixed on the countertop. "You did the right thing," she said, voice low. "I don't know what happened between you two fully, but I know this, you didn't deserve it. I saw the way you looked at her. You used to light up when she walked in a room. That kind of look doesn't come from nowhere." It was weird hearing someone else say that. Because she was right, I did love Kelsey. I gave her everything. I planned my life around her. And for a long time, I truly believed she loved me back in the same way. What changed? I asked, mostly to myself. Alexis sipped her wine. "I think she got bored. Not with you. With herself. She didn't know how to sit in stability. It scared her." We stood there, quietly sipping, as the silence deepened. There was no music, no TV humming in the background. Just the two of us, the clink of glass, and the kind of stillness that only happens after the storm passes and all that's left is whatever didn't get knocked over. "She's not staying with him," Alexis said suddenly. I looked up. "What?" "The guy. Whoever he is. It wasn't real. She thought it was. But it wasn't." "How do you know?" "She texted me yesterday. Said she was in a hotel. Alone. Said she felt like her life just fell apart overnight." I took another sip. Let it sit before I swallowed. It didn't fall apart. She dismantled it, piece by piece, over months. "I told her that," Alexis said. She didn't respond. She walked over to the sink and rinsed her glass. For a moment, I thought she was going to leave. "I'm not here to defend her," she added, setting the glass down. I didn't want you to think everyone in her orbit is as blind as she was." "Thanks," I said, and I meant it. She looked around the room. "The house feels different." "It is." She nodded once. Then, After a pause, "Are you okay?" That question caught me off guard more than anything else. Because no one had asked me that. Not really. Everyone tiptoed around the topic. My attorney dealt with the paperwork. My coworkers asked if I needed time off, then filled the air with noise about deadlines. My parents hadn't even called, probably heard through someone that things got messy, and decided to wait until the dust settled. But Alexis stood there, not out of pity, not out of obligation, just present. "I don't know," I answered truthfully. And then, without thinking too much, I said, "Stay for a while?" She looked at me, not surprised, not hesitant, just curious. "Not like that," I added quickly. "Just, I don't want to be alone tonight." She nodded, stepped back into the kitchen, and poured herself another glass. We didn't talk much after that. Just sat at the counter, quietly sipping, watching the shadows stretch across the tile. The wine stayed half full. She eventually pulled her legs up into the bar stool and leaned back against the counter like she'd done this before. Not in this house, but somewhere. Like she knew how to be still when someone needed silence more than noise. I don't know how long we stayed like that. At some point, the dishwasher clicked on from the timer I forgot I'd set. A soft whir filled the room. Alexis stood, stretched, and walked toward the front door. "I'm around," she said. "If you ever want to talk. Or not talk." I walked her to the door. She paused before stepping out. "You didn't deserve any of it, Kyle." "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'm starting to believe that." And when the door clicked shut behind her, the silence didn't feel hollow anymore.